Have you ever wondered what the sun will say before it devours us? No, really. Stop for a moment. Breathe. Think. You clicked on this because something inside you, some primal curiosity buried beneath centuries of safety and screens, recognized the title not as a question, but as a warning. And now you're here. But this isn't a theory, a what-if, or some CGI nightmare thrown together by a click-hungry algorithm. This is different, because what I'm about to show you doesn't belong in the light, and it wasn't meant to survive the last system purge. Yet somehow, against every protocol and firewall meant to keep this buried, it surfaced, quietly like a splinter in the digital mind of the world, waiting for someone like you to find it. It began with a file, no title, just a timestamp. 1947-33, 06-11-2039. And the sound. God, the sound. I remember opening it alone in my studio apartment in Tacoma, the kind where the walls feel like they're listening, and the air always tastes faintly like mildew and loss. It wasn't a video, at least not in the way we understand it. Just a single frame, a still of the sun, red and bloated, swallowing the horizon. And then the voice, not recorded but present, inside the audio like it was inside me. It didn't speak words at first. It breathed them, a language with weight, not heard. Felt. I should have closed it. I should have thrown the hard drive into the sound and set fire to whatever digital remnants I could. But I couldn't, because just as I was about to kill the window, the screen flickered and glitched, and there, in the top right corner, someone had written something. Only for a second. A single sentence that shouldn't exist. She warned us when she was born. I thought it was a prank, maybe an ARG. I scrolled through forums, Reddit, 4chan, obscure Discord threads, nothing, until I posted a screenshot. Then the messages started. Private ones, names with no profiles, IPs from places that don't exist. And one message stood out from the rest. Just 3 words. Check on Clara. I didn't know any Claras. I searched my contacts, my email, even my old Facebook messages. Nothing. Until I opened a voicemail from my estranged cousin in Pennsylvania, Alyssa. We hadn't spoken since the Christmas after her brother disappeared in 2027. She was sobbing. Not words, just gasps. Then finally, between shallow breaths, she said your name. Clara said your name. She's only 6 months old. She said your name. I didn't sleep that night. It's funny how your body pretends to function while your mind disintegrates. I made coffee, poured it over cereal. I took a shower but didn't wash. I put my clothes on inside out and stared at my reflection like it might offer a different version of events. And all the while, that voice from the file echoed in my skull. Not replaying, just existing inside me, like a memory I never made. Clara, Clara, Clara. I booked a ticket to Pittsburgh. The flight was a blur. The world felt dimmer somehow, like the shadows had sharpened and the light had started lying. And when I finally reached Alyssa's house, just a tiny blue structure off a gravel road near Moon Township, everything felt too still, as if the wind had decided to stay out of it. Alyssa opened the door, face pale, dark circles painted. Beneath her eyes like bruises. She didn't speak, just held out her phone. It was a video taken 3 nights prior. In it, Alyssa stood over Clara's crib. The baby stirred, cooed softly, then stopped, eyes wide, fixed on something above her. The room shook, not visibly, but there was a pressure, a distortion, like the lens itself was afraid. And then Clara spoke, not baby gibberish, not imitation. She said, clear as any grown woman, he's watching the burn, the red will open, the dead are waking. The phone fell, the video ended, and I sat there unable to move, my limbs heavy with ancestral dread. There was something unnatural in that child's voice. Not demonic, not possessed, just ancient. Like the universe had borrowed her vocal cords to send a message to the wrong century. I begged Alyssa to let me take Clara to a specialist. She refused. Said she hadn't slept in 4 days. That every time she blinked, she saw her daughter on fire, laughing. That every reflection of Clara in glass or water showed a sky burning red, people frozen in ash. She was unraveling. We both were. That night I stayed. I couldn't help myself. I crept to Clara's room, heart thudding like war drums in my ears. She was asleep, peaceful, serene. The monitor beside her blinked a soft blue, and I watched, waited, prayed that nothing would happen. And for hours nothing did. Until 3:03 a.m., the monitor turned red. Static filled the room. Not noise, but pressure. I felt my bones vibrate. Clara opened her eyes and whispered a name. Matthew. My name. Then she smiled, and behind her just for a second, the wall melted. Not physically, but visually, like something on the other side was looking. Me, a vast red eye blinking, watching. I fell backward. I hit my head. I must have blacked out because the next thing I remember, it was morning. Clara was cooing. Alyssa was making coffee, and no one said a word. I flew home that afternoon, but things didn't stop. I began seeing it, subtle signs, the same phrase appearing in graffiti across different cities, whispered in subway stations, etched into school desks. The red will open. Emails from addresses with no origin, filled with coordinates, that led to sun-scorched deserts or craters where no one lived, and dreams. I've never believed in prophetic dreams, but these weren't mine. They didn't feel like me. I watched people burn, not scream, not panic, just acceptance, as if they knew it was coming, and always above it all the red sun, huge, wrong, too close, as if it had moved, as if it was coming, NASA denied. And of course they did. Solar expansion is billions of years away, they say. But I found documents, censored studies, magnetic anomalies tracked since 2026. Sunspot patterns that form symbols that match ancient Sumerian texts, warning of the second flame, the day when Ra reclaims the living through light. Amba. Not the only one. There are others. A woman in Omaha whose father disappeared after she heard his voice through her Alexa. A man in Georgia who swears his newborn daughter hums the same melody he heard as a child the moment his mother died. Spreading. Whatever this is, it's spreading. And tonight something new happened. I was watching old footage, trying to see if there were any hidden patterns. And there it was, clear as day. A news broadcast from 2012, a weather segment from Wisconsin. The reporter is cheerful, pointing at temperature charts. Behind her, on the radar display, the heat zones form a perfect eye. Then the screen flickers, and for exactly one frame, 39th second in, she turns to the camera and says, clearly, the red is not a sun. It's a mouth. I paused. They played it again. Nothing. The original footage is gone now, deleted, the link 404s. But I have the frame, I'll post it here if I can, and now I'm scared. Because Clara's voice, that baby girl's voice, still echoes in my head. He's watching the burn. The red isn't just coming, it knows you're watching. And the last voicemail I received just 30 minutes ago was from a blocked number. A whisper, barely audible over the sound of static, said, "Do not look up tomorrow. Do not watch the sky." But I will, because there's one thing no one's ever asked. Not scientists, not theologians, not even the conspiracy theorists. What if the sun isn't a star at all? What if it's the last thing we see before we die? The word still hung in the silence, echoing with a gravity that sucked all warmth from the room. Do not look up tomorrow. Do not watch the sky. But I had no choice. I told myself that at least. Because somewhere beneath the panic and the raw edges of sleepless nights, beneath the inexplicable whispers and vanished footage, I was chasing a truth that kept slipping through my fingers, like smoke, like a dream I almost caught before waking, and then everything started to unravel. That night, the first thing I noticed was a subtle change in my apartment. Nothing obvious. No shattered glass, no broken locks, no misplaced objects. Just Small things. The hum of the refrigerator that was never quite right, the microwave's timer counting down in reverse when I wasn't looking, the soft flicker of the overhead light that synchronized too perfectly with my heartbeat. At first, I chalked it up to exhaustion, the creeping paranoia of a man who'd stared too long into a cosmic abyss. But as the hours passed, the unease deepened into something colder, sharper, a creeping frost across my skin. It was as if the room itself had started breathing with me, inhaling my doubts, exhaling confusion. Sleep was no longer a refuge. It became a fragmented landscape of black and white flashes, faces I didn't recognize, voices I couldn't place, memories that slipped away the moment I tried to hold them. The worst was waking up mid-dream, heart hammering to the faint sound of static whispers running just beneath the noise of the ceiling fan. I began to record everything. My phone's microphone was always on, capturing hours of silence. Or, so I thought, until I played back the first recording. At first it was normal, just the low whir of the air conditioner, a distant siren. Then after 15 minutes, a voice came through, cracked and faint but unmistakable. It wasn't Clara's baby voice this time. It was mine, whispering words I don't remember saying, words I don't want to remember. The red will open, the mouth waits, do not trust the light. I stopped the playback, but the echo clung to me like a shadow. Was I really the one speaking? Had I recorded myself sleep-talking? Or was something else speaking through me? The line between waking and dreaming blurred until I could no longer trust the sound of my own voice. The days bled into each other. I found myself pacing, retracing steps I never took, staring into mirrors for minutes at a time, searching for cracks that might reveal another version of me looking back. And then, in that haze of fractured reality, she appeared. Rebecca. I met Rebecca in a rundown cafe off Market Street, the kind of place that smells like burnt coffee and old secrets. She was lean, sharp-eyed, with a voice that trembled between urgency and exhaustion. She claimed to have known Clara's family, though her words twisted with uncertainty as if trying to remember details that refused to settle. At first I thought she was a lifeline, another person pulled into the same madness. But then her stories started to diverge. The details of Clara's warnings changed, the timelines warped, and her eyes, once steady, flickered with something unspoken, something haunted. Rebecca told me about a truth behind what no one tells you, about governments burying cosmic warnings in layers of disinformation, about old radio signals picked up during the Cold War that spoke of an approaching event, though she couldn't say exactly what. She said things that sounded eerily familiar, phrases I'd heard in my own recordings, but twisted, rearranged, like a distorted reflection. Then she confessed she'd lost days, sometimes weeks, and often woke up somewhere she couldn't explain, with no memory of how she got there. Her unreliability wasn't just a quirk, it was a symptom of the same unraveling that gripped me. At times, I caught her watching me, her gaze sharp as a scalpel, as if searching for cracks in my facade, for confirmation that I too was slipping. But when I asked, she would only smile, bitter, fragile, and whisper, "They don't want you to remember, not yet." I began to question everything. Had Clara really spoken those words? Was the red giant an apocalyptic monster, or was it a projection of my own unraveling mind? Was the file I found a genuine glimpse into cosmic death, or just a manufactured nightmare, seated deep to fracture reality itself? I found myself turning on the news, searching for clues, and every broadcast seemed to flicker with subtle anomalies, glitches. In the audio, fleeting images of faces disappearing just before I could focus, headlines that made less and less sense. One night, after another sleepless stretch, I confronted Rebecca about the recordings, those whispered words I couldn't claim ownership of. She shook her head, voice trembling with a mix of fear and something else I couldn't name. "Those aren't your words, not really. But they're speaking through you. We're all hearing it. The unsolved mystery here isn't just what the red giant will do. It's what it's doing to us now." Her eyes darkened and she leaned in close as if revealing a secret that might shred me to pieces. "It's a parasite, feeding on the fear, the doubts, the memories we think we have. It doesn't want you to know what's real. It wants you to forget. I wanted to scream, but my voice caught somewhere between despair and disbelief, because the more I listened, to Rebecca, to the recordings, to my own fractured mind, the less I trusted any of it. And then the last line she whispered before disappearing into the night, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the flickering lights. What they don't want you to remember is that some truths are better left buried, because remembering might be the death sentence. Now I find myself staring at the ceiling again, the same question clawing at me with razor teeth. Was I hunted by a cosmic horror or by the shattering of my own mind? And if the red sun is the end, then what terrifying truths have I already forgotten? Or worse, been made to forget? I thought I'd found it. The hidden truth finally laid bare, fragile but undeniable, like a shard of glass catching light in the darkness. For weeks I'd sifted through tangled clues, fractured whispers, and those maddening audio glitches until a pattern emerged, one that seemed to stitch together the madness into something coherent. It began in a musty archive, deep beneath the city, a vault filled with classified files and grainy recordings, relics no one wanted remembered. There, buried beneath decades of dust and denial, was a report, a faded document so ancient it felt like a ghost's whisper, detailing an event from the late 70s, a moment in time that mirrored the present in ways too exact to ignore. Town, much like mine, where people vanished without warning, where voices were heard on static and the sky bled red before the disappearances began. The report named it the Red Eclipse, but offered no explanation, just chilling data and a warning stamped top secret. My pulse quickened with every page I turned, every recording I played. It was as if someone had hidden the script to our unraveling nightmare decades ago. The mystery was uncovered. The unspeakable pattern was real. I wasn't crazy. They lied. To us all. Tried to bury it beneath layers of silence and fear. But then, just as I was ready to breathe a sigh of relief, to tell myself this was a puzzle solved, a single detail tore everything apart. Buried within the report was a name, one that struck like a cold knife, Rebecca. Not just a name in the footnotes, but in the body of the text, marked as a witness who vanished during that first red eclipse, never seen again. A name I had thought was my anchor, my only reliable connection in this madness. A memory glitch I hadn't recognized until then, a duplicate imprint that shouldn't have existed in this timeline. Had I been talking to a ghost? Or worse, had she been something else all along? The unease that settled in my chest wasn't just about Rebecca's impossible presence. It was the realization that this wasn't the first time this nightmare had folded, not the first time the red sky bled and swallowed everything whole. And if Rebecca had been here before, was I caught in a loop? Was this something cyclical? A cosmic sickness with a memory of its own, eating away at reality and rewriting us like a story with missing pages? Memories began to flicker like a faulty film reel, blurred and overlapping with the present. Faces from my childhood appeared in strange shadows. Voices I couldn't place whispered from rooms I no longer recognized. There was an incident. Something I'd buried deep. A night where the power went out for hours. Where my parents whispered frantic warnings I was too young to understand. A night when the sky had turned an unnatural shade of red. I'd laughed it off as a nightmare I'd had as a kid, but now those fragments felt too vivid, too real, like a secret implanted in my mind just beyond reach. A memory glitch, the hidden truth refusing to be ignored. And through it all, the feeling persisted of being watched, not by something distant or alien, but by a presence so close, so intimate, it felt like it was breathing with me, inside me. A force not just outside the window or in the stars, but lurking beneath the skin, threaded into the fabric of my thoughts, twisting every doubt into a blade of fear. It was patient and silent, waiting in the shadows of memory and mind. I couldn't name it. I didn't want to. But I knew it had been here since the beginning, watching as the red giant's shadow stretched across the sky, seeping into our lives. Like poison, The final twist hit me like a blow to the ribs when I reviewed the footage from my last meeting with Rebecca. In the background, just for a split second, a figure appeared. One I hadn't noticed before. Not Rebecca, not me, but something else entirely. Something blurred and shifting at the edges of the frame, almost dissolving like smoke, but undeniably there. And then a whisper, a name spoken softly, unmistakably, not by any human voice, but something else, something older than time itself. Suddenly, every piece of this story felt different. Every moment, every clue, every whispered warning, begged for a second look. What I thought was a revelation was just another layer of a deeper, darker lie. I wasn't just witnessing the end of a star or a cosmic death. I was trapped inside a narrative designed to break me, to unmake my reality piece by fragile piece. And now, as you listen, as you feel the chill crawling up your spine, you might realize it too. Nothing here is as it seems. Maybe you've seen the signs all along, the subtle glitches, the strange whispers you told yourself were nothing. Maybe you're not crazy. Maybe they lied to you. And maybe, just maybe, the real story has only just begun. Look back. Watch it, all again. Because the truth is hiding in the spaces between what's said and what's left unsaid, waiting for you to find it, or be swallowed by it. If you think you're alone in this, holding the frayed edges of a story that's unraveling, you're wrong. There are others, not just figments of your fractured thoughts or whispers in the static, but real people, scattered in shadows, watching as the threads twist tighter around you. I've seen the signs, the secret signals passed quietly between us like a language no one outside the circle could understand. Messages hidden in plain sight, scrambled symbols carved into abandoned walls, cryptic codes woven into grainy footage found in old VHS tapes no one dared digitize until now. Shared dreams that bleed across the night, images so vivid you wake, with your heart pounding, knowing the visions aren't just your own. And if you think this is coincidence, that you're grasping at nothing, then maybe it's time to admit you were right all along. You just didn't know it yet. There's a weight in these revelations heavier than gravity, dragging the senses down into a pit where nothing is trustworthy. Not the memories you cling to, not the faces you recognize in photographs, not even the names you answer to. Because the deeper you dive, the more you realize that identity itself is a fragile construct, one that can be altered, erased, or rewritten by forces that have been silently controlling this narrative since the beginning. The government never released the files connected to the red eclipse or the disappearance of Rebecca, but traces leaked into the dark corners of the web, in forums where conspiracy theorists whisper about Project Red Star and mind warp experiments. They speak of a collective awareness hacked, memories fractured like broken mirrors, reflecting fragments of a truth too terrifying to confront directly. And then there's the observer, someone who's been watching all this from the edge of the frame, quietly documenting without interference, the only voice that might be honest amidst the lies. Their perspective comes in shards, found footage from 20 years ago, a grainy recording that suddenly feels alive, watching you as much as you watch it, as if this observer isn't just chronicling history but guiding it. They speak not with certainty, but with the weight of knowing the boundaries between sanity and something else are thinner than a whisper, and slipping beyond them means becoming part of a larger, darker design. It's hard not to question what's real when your own memories twist beneath your fingertips like smoke, when a name you thought was yours belongs to someone else, and dreams reveal places you've never been but feel like home. When every conversation you recall carries an echo that wasn't there before, and every glance over your shoulder carries the weight of unseen eyes. The dread isn't just in the silence between the words, but in what's lurking behind the mask of every familiar face, in the suggestion that the story you've been living is only a shadow of a far more terrifying truth. So, as you sit with this knowledge, as the unease settles like a cold fog around your chest, remember this: the story is no longer just mine or yours. It belongs to all of us, the watchers, the lost, the silenced. And the deeper we sink, the more it becomes clear that what's been watching isn't just waiting for us to find it. It's waiting for us to become it. The question is, will you see it coming, or will it erase you before you even know you're part of the tale? There comes a moment, sharp and shattering, when the mystery you've chased for so long stops being about the what and becomes a haunting question of why. It's no longer about who vanished beneath the red sky, or who whispered names that never should have been spoken. It's about the raw, unbearable ache that pulses beneath those disappearances, the fractured echoes that reverberate through memory and mind, the quiet confession that perhaps all this horror is a mirror held up to our own fragile humanity. I stand on the edge now, the weight of truth pressing down like a storm cloud ready to break, knowing that if I cross this line, there's no turning back. This isn't just about stars collapsing or cosmic death. It's about the unbearable loneliness of being human, the desperate grasp for meaning in a universe that offers none. The silence after the red sky burns is a scream of isolation, of loss, of the deep hunger we all carry to be seen and understood, even if that understanding comes at the cost of everything we thought we knew about ourselves. I confess now, not to someone else, but to the void that watches in silence. I'm terrified that the truth will unravel me, strip away the layers I've built to protect my fragile soul. But also terrified that I'm already unraveling, that the story was never about outside forces but the darkness within. And in that moment, heart raw and trembling, I realize the real choice is not to find answers, but to decide what to do with the ones I have, to hold on to the fragments of hope buried in the shadows, or to let the dread consume what's left of my light. The red giant doesn't just burn stars, it burns us too in ways that no telescope can see. And maybe salvation isn't about escaping that fire, but about learning to live with its scars. If this is an awakening, it feels like waking from a dream you never knew you were trapped in. A dream where reality folds back on itself, where the familiar becomes strange, and every step forward feels like falling deeper into the unknown. And as the pieces shift around me, the question lingers like smoke in the air. What will you do when you face your own cosmic death? Will you run from the dark or stand in its fire? The sky still glows red. The stars still watch silently. And the story, it's far from over. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for stories you were never meant to hear. Until next time. Remember, some truths don't want to be found.